Right.
All right. Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And today we are going to be watching on the sports page with Bob Case. And we were going to watch and listen to a World Series champion, an all-star, and a guy that was around the game of baseball for nearly 50 years. Steve Blass joins us here today, a pitcher from the Pirates, 71 champion with the World Series going his way against the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to talk a little bit about that, how he got started in baseball, and obviously his broadcasting career, which went over 30 years. What an amazing career that this man has had, and Major League Baseball is all the much better to have him as a part of it. And Bob, when we bring in guests, there's always an originality, and Steve will definitely be one of those along with us here today. And thank you so much for bringing him for us.
Yeah, thank you, Harper. And Steve, I'm just honored to have you on here. I first met you from Jim Mewey, and I knew your trainer, Tony Barterome, who I saw play when I was a kid for the Hollywood Stars. He was a left-handed hitting first baseman and a great guy. And Jim Mewey, I helped him in the visiting clubhouse when I was working for Casey. He'd call me down there and help him pack in and bag in, and just a great guy. And I followed your career, and I followed the Pirates. And I would say if there's a poster boy for the city of Pittsburgh, it's got to be Steve Blass. I mean, you had some amazing years. One year you were 18-6, led the league in winning percentage. Just some great stuff you did. And nothing's bigger than winning 2 in the World Series and Game 7, winning that game of the complete game. I mean, you were just an amazing pitcher. And, what's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my whole life watching baseball is, this Tommy John surgery is a negative thing that happened to Tommy, but he's world famous for it. And the Steve Blass couldn't throw. That's they call it the Steve Blass syndrome when somebody can't reach home plate, which is maybe one of the weirdest things because you were known for your pinpoint control. And I mean, to see that is unbelievable. And nobody ever knew what happened. It just happened. But and then thank God you went on to be you were around the Pirates the whole time as an announcer and a broadcaster and just a great guy. And it's just Steve, you were a terrific, pitcher, and we'll never know how good you really would have been if you hadn't had that unfortunate thing happen to you. But you made the best out of it. You woke up on third base in a pair of Gucci's, and you woke up on your feet in a pair of Gucci's and ended up as a Pirate announcer. Who better to announce the history? You know the whole history of the Pirates, which is fantastic. I've always loved the Pirates. I always had a special interest with those teams you were on with Stargell and Clemente and Bob Robertson and Manny Sanguillen. They were some of my favorite teams. And Manny Sanguillen's one of my all-time favorite. I was a catcher, so I loved him. I loved how he crouched behind the plate. I loved his going for pitches over his head and hitting shots everywhere, and a great guy. But I can't wait to hear you tell these stories about your great life in baseball in Pittsburgh. So go for it, Steve.
Well, I've been looking forward to this, Bob and Harper. Great being with you guys. And, everybody has dreams. Not everybody gets to live them, but I'm still living mine. This is my 66th year in the Pirate organization, doing various things. Now I'm a so-called ambassador. I go out in the street. I represent the Pirates charity functions, make appearances for them. And I'll never stop giving back because, you go all the way back. I never lose track of the opportunity to play professional baseball. And it could have been the Mets, the Giants, the Dodgers, but it was the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I will never forget that. They'll have my loyalty for life. And when somebody gives you the opportunity to live your dream, you never forget that. Everybody has dreams. Not everybody gets to live them. And so I'll never quit on the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's been a great two-way street for all these years. It's been great back and forth. There's been different managers, different teammates, different players. But Karen and I, my wife of 62 years, never lose track of the fact that we were small-town kids from Connecticut, and we wound up in Pittsburgh. And the people in Pittsburgh embraced us and made us feel welcome wherever we went. The gas stations, the grocery stores, the restaurants, and you don't lose track of that. The welcome we got as a couple in Pittsburgh is precious to us, and it's never stopped. It's never stopped. So I've been lucky. I was good enough to have a good slider that helped me win a lot of ball games. But the whole journey has been something that I keep track of and so thankful for. And it's ongoing. And I get to share these stories a lot of time, numerous opportunities, and I've been looking forward to sitting down with you guys. So it never ends with me. I'm a ball gamer, and I'll never quit.
Well, Steve, I imagine when people are at the gas station and you can see someone with gray hair telling a youngster to go over and get your autograph. You know, the kids don't know much about you, a whole different era, but you still get to share some stories about winning and the tradition and doing something so special in Pittsburgh that you'll always be one of those fan favorites. I love it. Let's go talk about the kids for a while. A kid from Canaan, Connecticut. What was baseball like growing up for you? Was this something that you had little league? Were you playing wiffle ball when you were a kid? Did you have brothers and sisters or a neighborhood full of kids where you were the goofball if you couldn't play baseball? Were there other sports that you liked when you were a youngster? What was it like for you growing up?
I was a sports fan all the time. And, you know, I got lucky. I walked in, I grew up in a town, they call it Canaan, but it's also the town of Falls Village, part of Canaan. By the way, I was a big deal, the biggest deal to come out of Falls Village until Carole King, the singer, moved into our town for a while.
Yeah, it's too late, baby. It's too late. Yeah, she you can't carry a note, can you?
It's too late, baby. It's too late. But it was kind of a Norman Rockwell setting. It was wonderful. Our little town. I had the run of the place. I mowed everybody's lawn. If I never got into baseball, I kind of got to think that I might have become a salesman. I was selling those packets of flower seeds and vegetable seeds. We had a raspberry patch in our backyard. I would get those little baskets and sell a basket of raspberries for $1. So growing up there, born in 1942, it was just an ideal place to grow up. And my youth, my childhood was absolutely special. I got old enough to have a bicycle, but I'll tell you honestly, and this is one of the stories that I tell are true. So keep that as a caveat.
But this one here, this is a good one, right? This is one we can count on.
I used to have one of those orange rubber balls I would throw against the side of a barn outside of our house, and I would keep track of games between the Cleveland Indians and the New York Yankees. The Indians were my favorite team. I kept a scrapbook in 1954. I was 12 years old. Of every game they played, that's the year they won 111 games in a short season.
Oh, wow.
Al Rosen and the big three, Win, Lemon, and Garcia, and Bobby Avila, and Jim Hegan, and all those guys. Vic Wertz, who, by the way, broke my heart when Willie Mays caught that ball off him in the World Series. But I grew up in a beautiful, beautiful setting. Baseball for me started, and when I speak, I bring this up because I had this obsession. It was not an obsession that I was going to be a great baseball player, be in the big league. It was an obsession of finding out if I was good enough to go play Little League, if I was good enough to be in our grammar school team. That constant obsession, every level up through the minor leagues of the Pirates. I never lost track of that. The night before the World Series, 1971, I had this obsession. I didn't know I was going to be able to win. I didn't know, but I was obsessed with finding out. You know, people say they know, they don't. You don't know until you do or you don't. And but that wonderful obsession started a long time ago, and it never went away. Even when I go out to speak now, it's competing. I want to win that room if I can. So I had that wonderful idea or feeling from the time I was 9 or 10 years old. And I played Little League ball. I had my most embarrassing moment in all my years of baseball, 66 years, when I was 8 years old in my Little League. I made the team. And I was in the on-deck circle one night. I'd never had a hit all year, and I had to go. You had to go. I haven't had a hit, so I'll get up there and strike out, and then I can go back to the dugout and do what I need to do. Well, didn't I plop the ball over the first baseman's head, wind up getting a stand-up double. Now I'm standing out in double. I'm so happy that, oh, wait a minute. I still have to go.
Uh-oh.
Luckily, we had those gray wool, heavy 50-pound uniforms. Nobody knew that I went at second base except me. My most embarrassing moment. I actually felt pretty good for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
But then it got a little awkward. But
Yes.
that was my most embarrassing moment. Other than the last 2 years I pitched in the big leagues, they were quite embarrassing also. But my youth was great. I wound up going to a high school, small regional, 6 towns fed that little town, high school in Falls Village, and major league pitchers. My brother-in-law, John Lamb, Pirates had a pitching staff in 1970, mixed grill, they call it, a moose, a veal, and a lamb. Bob Moose, Bob Veal, and John Lamb, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother. And also her cousin, Tom Parsons, pitched briefly, very briefly, for the Pirates and the New York Mets. So out of that little high school, it was amazing how we came through with a great baseball program. And I'll mention our coach, Ed Kirby, who was a great friend of mine, worked the hell out of me when I was in high school because he knew that I had a chance to be a pro and what the challenges would be. He worked me so darn hard. And after I realized when I'd been in the big leagues, how grateful I was that he did that. But and I met this lady, Karen Land, and we've been married 62 years. And every Monday when we were in high school, my high school girlfriend, I would tell her every Monday, Karen, I can't see you anymore. I got to concentrate on baseball. And then Thursday I would call and tell her, I'll pick you up tomorrow night at 5:00. So we've been together ever since. And she's been wonderful going through a baseball player's wife's position while I'm all preoccupied and raising 2 boys that we're quite proud of. My friends call her St. Karen for various reasons. But again, I don't want to go on and on, but it's been a wonderful journey. And it started in Falls Village, Connecticut, in that atmosphere. Nobody in that little town told me I was not allowed to chase my dream. So when I go out and talk to kids now, that's one of the things I tell them, chase your dreams. They're catchable. They're very catchable. And you mentioned, Harper, seeing kids now that don't know who I am. But I do something when I see kids that are baseball fans that Bob Friend, when I was a rookie, told me. And it's become a mantra. It only takes a minute to make a moment. When I see a kid coming up, knows my name from broadcasting, little kid, I will get down on one knee, get eye level, and say, hey, Jimmy, where you been? I've been waiting for you all afternoon. Got a question for you, Jimmy. I've been wanting to take a picture with somebody all day. Would you take a picture with me, Jimmy? It's made so many magic moments for me. I don't know what the kid remembers. Some of them do that have come around years after. But I always, after that, my heart feels good. And I've never stopped doing it.
Absolutely love it. That's great. Your connection. And Bob, you've said this for ever since I met you, very first conversation we had. What does Casey always say about, remembering the little guy, right?
Casey Stengel taught me, if he taught me one thing, take care of the little guy. That's what he always said. Take care of the little guy. And he used to tell me, and you know this, Steve, what you were just saying is what Casey said. If like, for example, if Steve Blass is in a Walmart in Ottumwa, Iowa, and everybody goes, look, there's Steve Blass. They may have never, you may be the only major league player they will ever see. And if you take the time to do what you just said or sign an autograph for him, they'll remember that their whole life. They'll say, do you remember when we saw Steve Blass in Walmart? He signed an autograph for me and took a picture with me. And that is what I love about baseball. And the Casey Stengel was very much like that. And he taught me that, there's a lot of players today that snub kids and blow them off and everything. But I'm so glad to hear that you're like that, Steve. And it shows. I mean, look, you can see how you've lived. I can look at you at your age and see you've lived a wonderful life.
Yeah, well, the other thing, it only takes a minute to make a moment, but I don't know if anybody else has used this, but I've tried to live with this. I believe, and I really do believe, that as human beings, the only real gift we have is the gift of time, because you only have so much. It's not negotiable. You can't buy more. And I believe much of how we might be judged could be based on how we distribute that gift. and how much we appreciate it when somebody gives us their time. So those are, it only takes a minute to make a moment. And the thing about time, you can get a lot of mileage, and you can go a long way in life by keeping track of those things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What a tremendous mantra. Your career, you mentioned small town and all the great players that you played with at the high school level, and then got to play with again up above, after that. Can you go over a little bit of the process for you from high school? Did you graduate in 60? Is that right? And then sign with the Pirates?
Yeah, I did. But, there's a background, because I told you about this baseball program we had at Housatonic Valley Regional High School in Falls Village, Connecticut, from these little 6 towns. I had to wait my turn before I was the number one guy, because it was a sequence. I told you about the guys that came out of that high school. So Tom Parsons, Karen's cousin, was a senior when I was a freshman, and her brother that also signed for the Pirates that didn't make it. So there's another one, blew his arm out. Well, he got signed and blew his arm out, was a grade above me. So I had to wait my turn. So Tom Parsons graduated, and then Art Lamb, Karen's brother, had a chance to be the number one guy, and he probably was the best of all of us, but blew his arm out after he got signed by the Pirates. I had to wait. He had to wait for Parsons. I had to wait for Art. So my junior year, I was number 2. I pitched 3 no-hitters. He graduates my senior year. I pitched 2 more, so I've got no-hitters. And back in the day, the scouting guys didn't have the computers. They sat in back at the backstop of home plate with a lawn chair and a scorebook. But the scouts were around when I was a junior and senior, because what had preceded me. So again, I was scouted by various teams, but my favorite team, I wanted to pitch for the Cleveland Indians so bad. They offered me a bonus of $2,500.
How about that?
Back in 1960, that was a fortune.
Yeah.
And they said, you can start next spring training. The Pirate guy said, Bob Whalen, he signed me, and he signed Richie Hebner too. He said, we'll give you $4,000 and you can start right now. And it's a conditional contract where if you make it to the big leagues, you get 4 more. That was a part of a conditional contract they did. And when they said $4,000, I said, give me a pen. Where can I sign?
Yeah.
I will go. And I was a small town kid. I went to Kingsport, Tennessee, and I'd never flown before. And I get on an airplane at Bradley Field in Hartford, and we take off, and the plane banks to the left, and I leaned over to the right thinking I could help balance. You talk about a small town kid.
Right.
I was in Kingsport. My mom had always cooked for me, done my laundry, did everything for me. I am 18 years old. I know nothing other than Falls Village, Connecticut. So I finally had to go to the laundromat. I had some underwear and some socks. And this is a true story. This one's true. I went to the laundromat. I threw my stuff in. I had 4 or 5 pair of socks, 4 or 5 pair of underwear. Throw it in. Look up on the wall, and there's this vending machine that says soap. So I had about 10 items. So I bought 10 of those little boxes.
Uh-oh.
Threw them in. The stuff comes foaming out. I ran away. And as God is my judge, I mailed my laundry in a little box with straps around it from Kingsport, Tennessee to Falls Village, Connecticut. My mom would do my laundry, mail it back to me until, how hot it gets in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah.
She did my laundry and sent it back in the middle of August with 2 dozen chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, no.
And you got the visual?
What's worse, all the bubbles or all the chocolate all over your, oh my God.
I learned how to work the laundromat.
Yeah, you did.
Talk about life lessons when first time you're away from home, Kingsport, Tennessee, and won a few games and went up to Dubuque, Iowa. I was 4-1 in Kingsport. So they moved me up from the rookie league to Class D. And I promptly went 1-4, got a little dose of reality after being said, oh, this is Kingsport, Tennessee. This stuff is easy. Well, I called my dad actually from Dubuque, Iowa. I said, Dad, it was good in Kingsport. It's not working here. He said, work on your curveball, Steve, because there's not much left for you to do here in Falls Village, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So a little lesson from Dad, stay with it, kid. So, I started at the very bottom. But I always had that obsession to find out if I could get to the next level. I think that really helped me a lot. Just not knowing one way or the other, but obsessed with finding out.
Steve, do me a favor. Take me back to high school. You said sophomore, junior year, there were guys in front of you that scouts were seeing. A scout isn't worth his salt if he doesn't say, hey, coach, who do you have here? And who else do you have next year that I might want to get an early start at looking at? I'm sure you were one of those guys. What was your stuff like? What was your strikeout pitch? I mean, what were you working on and developing? You mentioned that your coach was really thorough at pushing you to get you better. What was it? What was your good stuff? Let me ask you that.
Okay, when I was first starting in Little League, I'll go way back. I could throw the ball by everybody. I had a great arm. And then I got to high school, and I was a freshman, and all I knew was just staying on the freshman team because we had Art Lamb in front of me and then Tom Parsons. So I didn't pitch much, hardly at all, my freshman or sophomore year. But Ed Kirby, our coach, knew that I had something. So he informed the scouts, hey, we've got Parsons. You've seen Parsons. You've seen Lamb. I got this kid from Falls Village that's got a great arm. So make sure when he pitches, you guys take a look at him. The great thing for me was I had advance notice because of the guys in front of me. So all I had back then was a fastball and a curve, and my curve on occasion was good enough. But when I got to AAA in the big leagues, I'll just fast forward. I knew I had to have more of a curve. It wasn't consistent enough, and there's a story about that we'll get to. But I got into high school with a fastball and a curve. But as I watched the guys in front of me, watch what they tried to do, I developed those two pitches good enough to be dominant in high school. And then in pro ball, working up through, still fastball, curveball. And then Karen and I got married. And how about this? I took her to the Dominican Republic for our honeymoon. She's never forgotten that honeymoon. The whole country was in chaos. Trujillo, the dictator, had just been assassinated. I took her to the Dominican Republic. We had military police in the dugout, Capablancos, they call, with machine guns. And that was part of the format. And I take this small town girl who I was in love with and married to the Dominican Republic. But I went down there because I'd committed to the Pirates of learning a slider. And I went down there, and I was my own coach down there because it was Latino and we didn't send many coaches down. But the slider I worked down there on my honeymoon got me to the big leagues the next year. And but Karen, I forget a lot about the Dominican other than the slider, but Karen hasn't forgotten anything about the Dominican Republic. So,
well, is it fair to say, Steve, that learning Spanish obviously helped you out because there were so many Spanish-speaking players that you ended up being teammates with later on in your career? Was that an advantage for you?
Oh, absolutely. And when we both got down there, we didn't know any Spanish at all, but it evolved. It was 3 months, 2.5 months. It evolved into a situation where we were forced to learn, workable Spanish, so I could relate and give me a feel of being away from my comfort level geographically. When I was in the big leagues, of Latino guys coming to join the Pirates in the big leagues, to do what I could to make them feel comfortable and welcome and all that, and that foundation began in Santiago, in the interior of the Dominican Republic. I went 9-2 down there, and I killed it. And it's because I learned that slider. And that was good baseball. I pitched against all three Alou brothers. Marichal was there. Rico Cardi was there. The Dominican baseball winter league was high-end baseball.
Yes, was Manny Mota there?
Pardon me?
Was Manny Mota there?
Manny Mota was a teammate later on. I don't remember him as much as the Alou brothers and Marichal and Rico Cardi.
Hey, Steve, I wanted to ask you, you said there was no coaches down there, so you virtually taught yourself the slider? Did somebody show you how to throw the slider?
No, I experimented a lot, and I realized it's a cut fastball. They cut it they call it a cutter now. That's the old original slider, which is a fastball that just moved at the end, looking very much like a fastball, only that late movement. Now, anything that breaks bigger than that, to me, is a breaking ball. But I struck out Pete Rose 3 times in a ball game, and that didn't happen very often to him.
Wow.
It was always a fastball, if you can visualize this, he had left hand off me that would look like it's going to stay outside. And at the last 20 feet, maybe 15 feet, it's a fastball that moves over. It doesn't look like a spin of a curveball. And a lot of batters will they call it the backdoor slider. It looks like a fastball and it just tucks in, nips in, catches the outside corner at the last minute. And I got him 3 times in a ball game on that. And he never forgot it. I later interviewed him for a pregame show, and I said, "Do you remember that? I struck you out 3 times in a game." He said, "Yeah, but do you remember a Saturday afternoon? I went 4 for 4 off you off four different pitches." Pete never forgot an at bat he had, so we had a good laugh about that. But guys like that when you played in that era, you played against the best, and if you did well, you beat the best there was. That was a great era of baseball that I played in. But it all started with that slider in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, you thought you had the last word against Pete until he says, "Yeah, I went 4 for 4 the next day."
Never any.
So you virtually taught yourself a slider then, right?
Yeah, I did. I worked on it. I knew the mechanics, but I knew it was just a fastball grip. And at the end, when you release the ball, instead of going straight out, you just cut across the baseball. That's why the grip slides.
Right.
Slider. And the thing is, the beauty of it, Ted Williams said it was the pitch that changed baseball, because it's so deceptive. It looks like a fastball that's not going to move. It doesn't have any of that spin of the breaking ball. So that helped me enormously. And I finally learned that I didn't have enough to throw the ball by people. So I wound up with 2 fastballs, a 4-seamer that had decent speed, average, maybe low 90s. But I also had one that I would turn over, a 2-seamer that I'd get some more movement, less speed, but more movement. So I had a whole bag full of pitches because I needed them. I couldn't blow the guys away, not at that level.
Well, to have a 2.18 ERA in 1968, you must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, the year of the pitcher, 1968. That's the year that Bob Gibson had the 1.12 ERA. And 1.12 ERA, and he's 22-9. Who the heck beat him? But anyway, I had an interesting year because I had just gotten up, 66, 67 were all right. So 68, on June 1st, I was 1-2. I was 1 2 losses, and I got hot, and the rest of it played out. I wound up 18-6, and a great winning percentage. So that was a very proud year for me. But it took a while to develop. April and May didn't work out. Oh, who's that young guy?
Well, we got a little bit of some of the young stuff when you first started out. The Pirates had won the World Series in '60. That's when you joined, right? The Bill Mazeroski home run and everything. But a little bit of silence for about a decade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was so proud that I signed with the Pirates in 1960. They go on to win the World Series. I said, well, pretty good choice by me.
Yeah.
I actually won $9 in a pool. I was working in a carpenter's outfit after my rookie year of 2 months in 1960. And we had a pool. Who would win money? You had to take a half inning. And I had the bottom of the ninth. I won $9 in the bottom of the ninth off number 9 Bill Mazeroski. So I was pretty happy that I signed with them, and it was. And
he later became your roommate, right?
Maz and I wound up rooming together, and the great story of that rooming together was in Chicago. Maz's birthday is September 5th. I hit my only home run pitching in Chicago on April 5th on Maz's birthday. My only major league ball home run.
Who was the pitcher?
Ken Holtzman, I don't know. It's God. So long ago, I hardly remember anything except it was Ken Holtzman, Wrigley Field, Chicago. Winds out of the southwest at 5 miles an hour, humidity 43%. It was 74 degrees. There were 22,140 people in the stands. And other than that, it's quite vague. But,
you could. Too bad you can't remember any of the important details of that.
The great thing, Don Elliott was our first base coach, and I ran to first. He said, take a left. Because I'd always peel back and go into the dugout.
Yeah.
So Maz's birthday and my first home run, we're on the street in Chicago, one of the great drinking cities. We made it count. We celebrated his birthday and my home run. And the next 4 days, I didn't have to work. The next day, he had to play. And he said, the next day, every ball went up in the infield. I saw 7 balls and I caught them all. So it was a great celebration.
Hey, Steve, I wanted to ask you.
Bill Mazeroski is one of the best people I've ever met on the planet. He was a heck of a ball player.
Steve, I wanted to ask you something. A lot of ball players, a lot of players have told me that he was the best they ever saw at turning the double play. What's your opinion of that?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
The ball seemed, when you'd watch him, the ball from a shortstop or a third base, the ball would seem to just change direction because he never caught the ball. If this is the glove hand, the ball would hit and bounce back into the throwing hand. He was amazing. And when he anchored himself at second base, those guys would slide into him and they would take him off the field, get help. He had these tree trunk legs, and they would try to take him out. Ron Stone was an outfielder for the Philadelphia Phillies. Yep. He was going to take him out. I'll never forget this play. He slid into Maz, kind of slid up Maz's body, slipped back down, and they took him off on a stretcher. But wow. Maz, his hands were so good. He had that innate ability to just be so quick with his hands. And he and Gene Alley set that double play record in 1966. But he would get on second base and he would turn that double play. People used to accuse us pitchers of walking somebody to just watch he and Gino turn the double play. Later on, that seemed to be the fact with me. But he was just so good. And that's a great picture of his glove because it didn't look that good in person. But nobody, there's no reason why the best fielding second baseman in the history of baseball shouldn't have gotten in the Hall of Fame earlier. Yeah. There used to be a rumor that the Veterans Committee, a former Yankee, wouldn't vote for him because he was still sore about 1960. But he finally got in.
Political, that's all politics.
Huh?
It's all politics, the Hall of Fame, I think.
No, I think Yogi Berra voted for Maz on the Veterans Committee. Oh. But there he is, Maz. Maybe the most exciting moment in baseball. Yeah. Home in the bottom of the ninth against a team that was supposed to crush them, by the way, and did in 3 games, but not 4. And just a side note, Danny Murtaugh managed that team. He also managed the 71 team. He beat, as a manager, 2 of the best teams in the last 100 years of baseball. The 60 Yankees and the 71 Baltimore as the 420 game winners and Hall of Famers. There's no reason Danny Murtaugh shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
I talked to you, Steve. I said yesterday, Lasorda won 2 World Series in 20 years. Danny Murtaugh won 2 World Series in 13 years. And Lasorda's in the Hall of Fame. Why would Danny Murtaugh not be in the Hall of Fame?
Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Danny Murtaugh, he managed in Pittsburgh. I think probably.
Terrific manager. Terrific.
Yeah, he was great to meet too. And I want to mention this about him. Throw baseball aside for a minute. There's nothing better in this world about being cared about. And Danny Murtaugh cared about me. I was not a big bonus kid. I was not a blue chipper. I started at the bottom rung. He treated me like a son. He was like a baseball father. He and Joel Brown was the same way. I was lucky. I came up to the big leagues with Joe Brown and Danny Murtaugh, and it couldn't have been a better atmosphere for me to walk in, including those players from that team. To all of them helped me go from being a ball player to a major leaguer. And you don't forget that stuff. You keep track of that stuff. Those kind of people. So yeah, Danny but Maz was so great. Never said much, but he told me 3 things as a rookie. He said, "You're in the big leagues now. No excuses. Nobody cares about why you failed. They want to hear about why you succeeded. The other thing is, don't ever forget the name on the front of the uniform is more important than the name on the back." And he also told me a little subtle thing. He said, "If people flatter you enough to ask for your autograph, sign it so they can read it." Maz could have just signed Maz. He had a great signature for thousands and thousands of autographs. And you keep track of that stuff. The other side of Maz, he had a great sense of humor. The only thing he hated was when Danny Murtaugh would tell him to go over to talk to a Pirate pitcher that was getting beat up. well, they wanted to buy time in the bullpen for somebody to come in and relieve if a pitcher was not doing well. I'm on the mound one night. I'm getting my face ripped off, and Danny Murtaugh, Maz respected everybody's position, so he never wanted to give advice to anybody. But Murtaugh would make him come over. He said, "Go over and talk to this guy while we buy time in the bullpen." He came over to me one night, and my ERA is going up higher than faster than it is now. And he came over and said, "I don't want to do this. I didn't want to be here. They made me do this. But you know what? You are getting your butt kicked." I said, "Thanks, Bill." So we both had a laugh about that later on. But
sometimes the truth hurts, right?
Bill Mazeroski was as good a major leaguer, representative player, all this stuff as you could ever imagine. He'd be on that first team.
Well, Steve, you mentioned Joe Brown. I want to tell you, he was a dear friend of mine. He lived in Laguna Niguel. I helped him. He collected press pins. I would help get him press pins. Yeah. Everything. But his dad was the famous actor Joe E. Brown.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Here's the trivia. People don't realize, that Joe Brown played football for UCLA, and he was a teammate of Jackie Robinson at the UCLA.
I never knew that. I knew that. Yeah. Well, another Southern Cal thing. We had the only guy that played for Benny Benack, our band leader that played "Let's Go Bucks" all the time. There was only one other a guy that played for the Steelers and the Pirates. And his name was Rex Johnston. He was
he went to SC. I knew Rex.
Yeah,
he played for Rod Dado.
Yeah, the only other guy was Benny Benack. He played for the Steelers and the Pirates. He was a band leader. But Rex and we came up through the minor leagues together.
What a good guy Rex is.
He came to Pittsburgh just before he passed away. I loved him. He was maybe one of the best looking human beings. He could have been a movie star as well as a baseball player, but ran back kicks for the Steelers and played for Southern Cal.
Yeah.
So all part of that journey. The people I crossed paths with.
Oh my God.
I learned a little bit tried to learn from each and every one of them.
Right. Well, the 60 journey, signing with the club for 4,000 to 64 and maybe 65 when you get brought up. We showed a couple of the cards earlier. Black makes you look smaller. So you look like you got no arms, right? You had no skinny little arms, but your arm is what got you in the big leagues, right?
Oh, yeah. But, when I signed, I weighed 155 pounds. When I got to the big leagues, I weighed 170.
Okay.
Wow. And every spring training, we had a chart, first day of spring training, where you would enter your weight each day of spring training. And when I got established and I knew I could do it, I just wrote 175 my first day all the way across the chart. So my last year, I maybe got up to 178, but I never had a sore arm. People say, you couldn't throw strikes because of a sore arm or whatever. I never, and I was pitching 250 innings. I mean, you talk about these opening days now, and we just got through with recently. 1970, I pitched against Tom Seaver in Forbes Field. They had just won the World Series a year before. I went 10 innings. He went 9 innings. That wouldn't have. My arm never hurt. It never hurt. And by the way, neither of us got a decision. It was an extra inning game, but it was. I love pitching against Tom Seaver. He was one of my favorites. He'd be on that 5-man rotation if I had to pick one of all time.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, no kidding. What was it like for you? Do you have any memory, or was there a magic moment that you just stopped to make sure you noted when you got to play in your first game? Was there anything special that you got to remember from that?
From that game?
From any of the first game that you played in, the first one.
Oh,
when you finally got brought up.
Oh, when I got called up, it was a unique situation. A kid named Tommy Sisk and I came up together, and he was in the big leagues. I got called up on May 15th or May 10th, and we didn't have any place to go. So Karen and I knew them from the minor leagues. Tommy and Donice's wife, they let us stay in their apartment with them. So I'm there 2 days. Tommy starts against the Milwaukee Braves back then on a Sunday afternoon. He gets knocked out in the first inning. I go in, pitch 5 shutout innings. My first appearance. We go after the game. They sent Tommy back down to Columbus, AAA, and I've got to drive home with him to his apartment and tell him I'm staying. And he and his wife are getting shipped to Columbus. I remember that. But 5 days later, I make my first major league start. Dodger Stadium, Don Drysdale, first major league start, 40,000 people there. And on the big jumbotron, they said, tonight's pitchers for the Dodgers, Don Drysdale, 6-1, leading the league in ERA in 4 categories, and for the Pirates, Steve Blass. I pitched a complete game and beat him 4-2, my first big league start.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll never, ever forget that. 1 o'clock in the morning, I called everybody back in Falls Village, my high school coach, my parents. First big league start, Drysdale, Dodger Stadium.
Wow.
And
That is fantastic.
I'll never forget that.
My idol as a kid. I knew him I loved Don Drysdale.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I said, what am I doing here? The atmosphere of Dodger Stadium. I said, I don't know if I can handle this, but I was obsessed with finding out. Obsessed with finding out again.
Well, you had a better ERA, even though yours wasn't posted on the pregame scoreboard.
Steve Blass. And I interviewed him later when I was starting to broadcast. I said, do you have any memories of May 5th, 1964? He said, no. I said, I beat you my first major league start. He said, oh, no, not another one. You're after the fastest gun in town. He said, oh, not another one that remembers beating me. Not too many people beat him, by the way.
That's for sure.
Steve, I've got a few pictures of you and your arms, your legs, you're flailing all over the place. Was that a designed plan that you had to make it harder for people to find the ball when it came out of your arm?
No, that's because I was so slight. I had to put everything into it, and it looked so weird. But I had to throw every part of my body at home plate just because I wasn't built like a guy that was a lot bigger. I was barely 6 foot, and back then about 170 pounds, and very awkward. So I fell off a lot to right field, not like Jim Bunny or Nellie Briles, but almost. My first move was over toward first base, so it was always easy for me to cover on a ground ball with our first baseman.
Okay, so there was some strategy.
But it was hard to pick up a little bit because I went so far in back of my body, as you can see in that one image.
Yeah, the one on the right. Did you end up learning to throw differently? Nowadays everybody has video, and there's so many different ways that you can study who the next pitcher is going to be if you're a hitter. Could you hide your pitches? Did you tip your pitches? Was there anything about your game that if you did some due diligence, I need to improve and get this a little bit better, and it's going to make me a better ball player, between your high school, your minor league experience, and then once you got to the bigs? Was it easy for them to be able to tell the difference between a fastball and your slider?
Well, I don't think so, because I went back so far. So they're going to have to they're going to see the ball before I go behind my back, and then try to see it as I come forward and release, and there's not much time. So I never tipped my pitch. I don't think they could ever really find out, because I was all over the place. So it was awkward to get a feel for where I was going to start and where I was going to stop. And one interesting thing that I did from a stretch when I have runners on first base, I probably balked for 8 years, because you're supposed to come to a set position. Well, I just kind of bounced, but I did the same thing every time, and I never got called on it. Never once got called on it. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I had a.
So you wouldn't get set. You'd bounce, and then you'd begin your delivery, and made it really difficult for some of the speedsters that they couldn't steal on you, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I had that. Now my son Chris is here, and if you tell me how to shut this thing off, I'll keep going with these guys. But we want to talk about the World Series. So can I just leave it the way it is, Chris?
Yeah, hold on. Yep.
Okay. Bear with me for 1 second.
Go ahead.
No, I'm good. My motion was so wacky that it was hard to pick up a pitch. That helped a little bit too.
Well, you mentioned the World Series, but in 60, 64, when you start, when you make it to the big club, from 64 to 71, what did you start to notice year after year in terms of the talent level? You had some great players that were already there. You're bringing in some really young guys by the time 71's around. And I've got a list of your lineup. I'll let you do it, but I'm just saying there's some incredibly good baseball players that were they peaked at just the right time. But could you start to tell, was Danny Murtaugh putting a lineup together? You go, hey, we're not going to be in fourth place this year. We might win the division. You know what I mean? Well, how did you notice that you guys were getting better?
Well, it kind of happened. I was kind of established by 66. I was going to be in the big leagues for as long after that as I was going to be. But we had one great minor league system, scouting system. So I knew 68, 67, 68, 69, guys like, okay, we'll start with Sanguian, Milt May, Bob Robertson, Dave Cash, Richie Hebner. You already had Stargell and Clemente, but you had Al Oliver and that. You had Doc Ellis. You had Bob Moose. I mean, we were.
Rene Stinnett.
Pardon me?
Rene Stinnett.
Rene came along, a little bit later on. But yeah, I pitched against him when we did a PR tour down in Panama. And I was on top of my game after the World Series, and he represented Panama. He won 4 for 5 off me. Wow. So I knew about Rene Stinnett. But we had guys coming up that were really going to be good all at once. It was like a crop. And we still had Stargell, Clemente, and
Manny, yeah.
Well, Stargell, Clemente, and Mazeroski from leftover from the other team. So it all filled in. You know, we were on the verge, and we knew by 1970 this is going to be a really good baseball team. And Sanguian was. I love Manny. Manny's my friend. We pitched the last 2 games in the World Series together, but I almost got to the point where I would start to wind up knowing what fingers he was going to put down for a pitch. We had a great rhythm, but they all kind of emerged in the late 60s to form that team that really dominated, along with the Reds, the decade of the 70s. I mean, that was 2 great baseball teams, and we went head to head. And it was a big red machine in the lumber company, but there are also some really good pitchers along the line with that. And that team that emerged in the late 60s and 70s, what a great team to pitch in front of, because the 3 leaders, the guys at the top, Latino, black and white, you had Maz, you had Stargell, you had Clemente, that were mentoring. But all you had to do is watch those 3 guys as a young Pirate coming up, and you were going to get better. You're simply going to get better.
Do me a favor. You got Bob Moose and Doc Ellis here, right? 2 young guys. Yeah. You and Moose had almost the same body frame, build, everything like that. Did you?
Yeah, he was a little sturdier, but he was a little more powerful. Yeah.
Okay. Then you got Nelson. I got a nice picture of him falling over. I think you struck out Frank Robinson on this pitch.
Yeah. What a job he did in the World Series after we got him. We got back in the series, winning games 3 and 4, and then he pitched that shutout in Game 5. And this is not uncommon. I mean, you talk about putting everything into it, falling flat on your face.
Yeah.
So that was extreme. I did a little bit of that. And, actually going back to what we were talking about, the Pirates tried to straighten out my windup and make it more compact and more straightforward and smoother. And I tried it, and I got my brains beat in. So I went back to falling off the mound and getting more into the pitch itself. But
what worked for you?
Nobody ever did it like Nelly.
And then you got Bob, right? You had 100 Bobs on your team, or maybe 99. It was amazing, right?
Bob Moose, Bob Veal, Bob Robertson. Bob Veal was a great guy. We just lost him last year. He was so kind to me when I had questions. He was another one of those guys that helped me go from being a player to a big leaguer. And then we acquired Dave Justy from the Cardinals on the recommendation of Roberto Clemente. He talked to Joe Brown. He said, you see that guy over there with St. Louis? Because he had known Dave from his days as a starter with the Astros. And he told Joe Brown, if you can get Dave Justy, get him. And Joe Brown got him. And Dave become a great reliever, but I'll capsulize it. In the playoffs and World Series, Dave Justy pitched a total of over 10 critical innings. He didn't pitch mop-up innings. He was our closer. over 10 innings of critical innings, never gave up a run in the playoffs in the World Series of 71.
Yeah, that's so critical for stuff like that. And then some of your fielders, you got Vic.
Vic, yeah, great. Yeah, our take a look at our bench. We had Vic Davalillo, we had Mel May, we had Gene Kleins, we had
Richie Zisk, right? I got Richie here. You got Richie Hebner.
And we also had to put Al Oliver in center field because Bob Robertson was such a great first baseman. Al learned the position at the major league level and got to the point where he should. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame with his numbers, over 2,700 hits and leading the league and all that stuff. Al Oliver became a guy that hit the ball, I thought, so hard all the time. And it got to the point where when he hit a line drive and got caught once again, which happened often, he'd come in the dugout and say, "Oh, yeah, another pop-up scoop, another pop-up." And so we'd kid him about that. But he did a great job evolving into a very, very good, excellent Major League Baseball player.
Right, Dave Cash. Bob mentioned Randy Stennett. We got, what a lineup. And again, a lot of these guys have been around for. Mazeroski's near the end of his career, but you got some of these other young guys that are just beginning their second, third year, and it's clicking. Everything's together. The pitching, the middle innings, you could eat those up. You get Dave, like you said, to come off the bench there in the 8th or the 9th inning, and it just everything started working out for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we weren't surprised to just run the table in 1971 and get it done. One of the things that from a personal point, so we're going to be in the playoffs. I had a good year. I've got a run of I'm winning 15 games a year. So I start the first playoff game against the Giants. I fell into a trap, and here's the trap I fell into. I had never pitched in the postseason. 1970, we got swept by the Reds. I didn't have a good year in 70. So I'm going to pitch the first playoff game in 71. And I thought, okay, it's not the regular season anymore. I've got to be better. I've got to throw harder. I've got to strike out more people. And it's a trap. I should have stayed with what got me there, but I didn't. I got lured into that trap. That first playoff game, I struck out 9 or 10 in the first 5 innings and got crushed, beat up. I didn't learn my lesson. I started the 5th game, got crushed. Luckily, they bailed me out, and now we get in the World Series in spite of my bad pitching. Bob Johnson, by the way, a guy we acquired from Kansas City, beat Juan Marichal 2-1 in one of the, I think maybe game 4, because Nellie Briles he was not healthy, couldn't go. So I had a little meeting with myself after the playoffs. I said, okay, well, you learned something now. You fell into that trap thinking you had to be somebody different. And that's what helped me that's why I didn't start the first 2 games of the World Series. And I'd been the number 1 guy for a couple of years because I'd gotten beat up so bad in the playoffs. Doc pitched the first one, and then Bob Johnson was rewarded in game 2 because of the game he had against Marichal. And then I got a chance to pitch game 3 and pitch the game of my life. And because I got out of that trap. And I don't know if I can show you something, but I want to hold this up, and I hold it up in front of my face because after game 3, my father, this plumber from Falls Village, Connecticut, broke through security, jumped out onto the field, and got into a national television post-game show with Tony Kubek and me. But here's the pose I wanted to show you.
Hold it down a little bit more.
Can you tip it?
Doggone it.
Can you see that?
No, it's on the screen. Where the AI behind you that's putting the screen on. There we go. Now, thank you. That's better. Yep, just like that. Thank you.
That's my dad. We all have fathers or have had fathers and singular moments. That might be the most singular moment of one of the most singular, not just baseball, of my life. My dad fought his way onto that field to get on the field. And I think of him all the time. He's been gone for a lot of years, but he was a plumber. He had to take side jobs at night. And every once in a while, he'd be working on his plumbing job. I'd go with him. I'd be polishing fittings for him, just him and me. We had a lot of kids. We had 5 kids in the family, but that quiet time with your dad where you don't have to talk much or you can talk about everything. I cherish those nights with him in somebody's basement in Falls Village when we're working together. But that was the moment that I will cherish.
Well, that was in Three Rivers too, right? So he was able to probably get a couple of the local security guards to go, "Hey, I'm the pitcher's dad. Well, get in here. Let's go. We got to get you up here, and so you can go say hi to your son," right?
They didn't want anybody jumping on the field back then. So I don't know if that was the conversation, but he made it happen. He got in there.
Hey, Steve, did your dad love baseball?
Oh yeah, he was a pitcher, and when I was growing up, he was wild. He threw the ball all over the place. I said, "Wow, I'm hoping nothing like that." Ironically, you think, but yeah, he played on the town teams. Every little town had a town team. So Canaan had a town team, and I was the bat boy, and we'd go every Sunday, and they'd stop after the game, and they'd stop and have a beer, and I drank more Coca-Cola sitting in a car those Sunday afternoons. Like when I was growing up, I drank more Coca-Cola than anybody in Connecticut, I think. But I was the bad boy for the town team.
I love hearing that. That's great.
Oh yeah, I mean that goes back to a wonderful time. Baseball, the history of baseball goes in so many directions, and it's the direction they're going on now. I don't care about it. I think they're trying to sanitize it. Where the story's going to be later on. It's an imperfect game played by imperfect people, and that's why we're drawn to it. The stories and the characters. They're going to sanitize everything. Can be challenged and be perfectly clear. What's going to happen? Like when I was broadcasting and Lloyd McClendon got thrown out of a game at first base, so he just didn't go right in. He picked first base up out of the ground, took it into the dugout, and I was on the air. I said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know that's Lloyd McClendon's fourth stolen base of his career." But where are the stories going to be? I think they're
You are 100% right. Today, these players are like a beige spot on a beige wall. And the old players were characters. The guys that stayed out and drank, they were fun. They were just a bunch of characters.
Yeah, I could scream at the umpire at home plate. You call a strike a ball. I said, "Where do you want?" He said, "How about this? Why don't you try the strike zone? Shut up and get out there and throw." I mean, I hollered that to Doug Harvey one time. He was kind of the imperial guy of the umpires, and I said, "Well, where do you want it, Doug?" He said, "How about the strike zone?" And I won't say the rest of what he said.
Yeah.
But
well, do you mind me asking a couple of questions that maybe from a strategical standpoint? I'm going to have this is a brand new stadium that you're in, right? The paint's still wet in some places.
Yeah.
And you get to go in there, but it's AstroTurf, which is a new surface. Instead of having a ball kind of dribble through the infield and make its way into center, you're getting, especially guys, you mentioned Al Oliver and his power, or Robertson or Mazeroski, the guys that could really hit, the Clementes to start. Did that affect the way that you pitched, knowing that the infielders were going to be back a little bit further? In some cases, they're going to be on the where the dirt and the grass meet. Was there a difference for you in how you strategized the way you were going to throw a game against a certain team because of the turf?
No, and I thought that was going to be a trap too. That okay, I got to change because the surface is going to be so fast. And the only thing that I thought about that, we all thought, okay, there's going to be more ground balls that get through because the infield is going to be faster. There's going to be more gap shots. But you know what? I found out it was balanced that there's going to be a lot more double plays too because the ball is going to get to the fielder. So there was a degree of balance there. There might be more guys held up at third base because the base hit got to the outfielder quicker. You might have to hold a guy up. So it wasn't totally one-sided. So I think it played out that way. Before we went over, we went on a road trip from Forbes, came back to Three Rivers. And we were very excited. We said, "Oh, what? We're going to get carpeting in the clubhouse. We're going to get air conditioning," because Forbes Field became a relic. I love pitching there. It was 457 to center field. Yep. And so
hey, Steve, I remember as a kid the batting cage was in center field
with the flagpole. And Willie McCovey hit a ball off me. And this is another true story. went over the 457 sign, and they told me that it disrupted a foursome on the Shinley Park golf course back of the parking lot. I have a friend who tells me that he firmly believes that every Monday night around 10 o'clock at night in the eastern sky, you can still see that ball in orbit. I mean, Cubby got all of it, and I was proud of that one.
Yeah,
it was a barn, but it was so great to get to Three Rivers, and what a run it had in the 70s with the Pirates and the Steelers. I mean, if you were a pro sports team and on a pro sports team in the 70s in Pittsburgh, we had quite a run that decade, that 10 years.
Yeah, the following year was 72. I did bring one photo of the Immaculate Reception. That changed everything for the city from a football perspective. Was it a baseball only town? And the Steelers prior to 72, excuse me, they were an also ran. You know, they hadn't been in the playoffs, and they were terrible through the 40s, 50s, and all throughout the decade of the 60s. They finally got better once Franco got there.
Yeah, well, you know, we both teams, both organizations started getting it right in the 70s when we went to that new ballpark, and it was a great run at that ballpark. Absolutely great run.
Let's talk a little bit about your time there in the 71. You beat, back then there weren't multiple playoff series. You mentioned the Giants. I've got the Reds here. Manny Sanguillen, for obvious reasons, really one of those guys that was a difference maker in some of these close games. I'm sorry, this is one with Willie. I apologize.
He's never jumped that high. That was a great attempt, by the way, in the first game. A home run just got hit. He almost got to that ball.
Wait, is that a foul ball though? It's a foul ball because it's right there next to the Oriole dugout.
No, that's their bullpen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Okay.
Yeah, they beat us up. You know, I knew I was going to pitch the third game. I kept notes. They had like 15 singles in the first game, and then about 6 home runs in the second game. What kind of a team am I facing here? And that could have been a trap. You gotta stay with your stuff. I always felt you got to stay with your strength. I don't have many absolutes. I feel that way. I also feel every manager in the big leagues is a product of his talent. Casey Stengel was a pretty darn good manager with the Yankees. Didn't do too well with the Mets.
Yeah, things obviously change. Bob had a good series.
Oh, Robertson, good playoffs, good World Series, and he hit that home run in Game 3 that blew it open because we won 5-1, but that was nip and tuck. We can't lose Game 3. We cannot lose Game 3.
No,
you can't go down 3-0 to that team. So that was a huge home run that he hit. And I told Murtaugh he missed a bunt sign. Clemente and Stargell were on the bases. He was supposed to bunt, and he'd never bunt. He didn't know the bunt sign. So I told Murtaugh, I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "If you find him, I'll pay it," because I was pitching.
Yeah, and have him hit a dinger. He had a big series too against the Reds. Here's a close play at the plate, obviously. And the Reds were just becoming their own. They had been to the series, right? They end up losing to Baltimore. So, there's some really good teams that are a part of this playoff process here that are starting to rise at the top. The Reds would go again to the World Series in 72.
Yeah, that's
win it in 75. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob Moose threw a wild pitch. I pitched 2 games. I didn't fall in the trap that I fell in 1971. So I won the first game, and I was ahead 3-2 in the second game, or in the Game 5. That's when Bob Moose threw the wild pitch that scored somebody, and they went to the World Series, and we went home.
Man,
but it was an interesting kind of a situation because I got taken out. Dave Justy, our closer, came in after Ramon Hernandez, and it was still a tie ball game. Before that playoffs, I had called a contractor, and I had this beat up asphalt driveway, and I said, "We're going to win the World Series game again, so I want you to put in concrete. So we're going to win. I'm going to get another World Series check." So Justy comes in, my roommate, my neighbor, 4 houses up, comes in, and he threw a pound ball to Johnny Bench. And the minute I see the contact, I run back into the clubhouse, called the contractor and said, cancel the concrete or going with asphalt. Bench hit it out, tied it up, and then the wild pitch. So we did not go to the World Series.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh, go asphalt, right? My goodness.
We're going to go with asphalt.
Oh no. Well, let's go back to 71 for obvious reasons. Willie was left fielder there.
World Series.
Yeah. Let's go back to the good stuff. And how about this guy? We haven't talked much about him, but especially in big games, it was short-lived. You didn't get to enjoy it for very long, but he had a great 18-year career and really peaked at so many different levels. Gets his 3,000th hit and just puts the ball in play. Has a rocket arm. Got to show that off in front of the world for that series. Tell me a little bit about Roberto.
Roberto was magic. I mean, I saw him at so many levels. I saw him at the level in spring training when I was in the minors, invited to the Major League camp where I didn't dare talk to him. I talked to him my rookie year. I made another mistake because I came up. I only won 5 games my rookie year, but I won 2 of them in a row. And now I'm young and stupid. I'm different now. I'm old and stupid. But I made the mistake. I won 2 games. Now I got this figured out. I really got this figured out. So I go to Forbes Field one afternoon early, and Clemente's sitting over by his locker by himself. So I said, well, I got it figured out. I'll just go over and I'll get him squared away. Stupid. So I go over there like an idiot, and I said, Roberto, here's the deal. If I ever get traded, I'm going to pitch you inside because every National League pitcher pitches you away, and you hit 350 every year.
Yeah.
He said, yes, I'm going to tell you one thing. You pitch me inside, I will hit the ball to Harrisburg. I said, good talk, and slunk back into my locker and shut up. Life lesson number 1. But watching him, when I talk now, I say he had the ability to take a 10-year Major League veteran and turn him into a 10-year-old kid because you never want to miss anything he did. He had a presence. He didn't want to miss anything. I have a picture in my home of him kneeling in the on-deck circle. He had that presence, and that was his World Series. I mean, everybody had a chance around the baseball world to finally see what we had been seeing for 20 years in Pittsburgh, and easy choice for the MVP. I might have been in a different situation if I had done something different with somebody else, not Clemente. Maybe I would have had a chance, but that was his World Series. I applauded that he won that honor because he played an unbelievable game. And, just a quick word about professionalism. You had 2 of the great right fielders, Frank Robinson and Clemente.
Yeah.
Robinson MVP in both leagues, Clemente spectacular, 2 of the best. Clemente hit a home run early in that World Series over the head of Frank Robinson, just barely got over his glove. I mean, he thought he had a chance to make it. So it's one best right fielder hitting the ball. And just as the ball goes over his glove, and you can see it on the highlight film, Frank Robinson's gloves comes down and the tip of the cap by Robinson. Yeah. Professionalism. I thought it was one of the great marks of that World Series. And you see professionalism these days. I wish I saw more of it. But that was a wonderful thing. Nobody ever wrote about it, but I remember it to this day. And that was his World Series. But I do have one other thing to try to show you, and I'll put it up in front of my face, because after the World Series in the Pirate Clubhouse, are you able to
lower a little bit? There you go. Almost. There you go. Right there.
There's, and we've never appeared topless after that.
No, that's a good idea.
That was the 2. I pitched the game of my life, the 7th game, and he was the MVP.
Yeah,
and,
great picture.
He won a car. He won a sports car for MVP. And the next year, I told him, I said, "Yep, you get the car, you deserve it. I should have got the tires." And then he told me something in Spanish I can't repeat. It was just, how about an honor from Falls Village, Connecticut? I get to spend 10 years as a teammate and a friend, to have a hero be around my hero, my teammate, my friend, Roberto Clemente, for 10 years.
Yeah.
I had the honor, which I wish I had 10 years later, of giving the eulogy at the memorial in Carolina, Puerto Rico, in the church. It was an honor that I wish I could have had, years down the road from there.
Right. And an honor you never wanted to have, right? Because the plane crash, if it doesn't happen, he's still playing another, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever.
He had some years left to him.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was a little deceptive because he looked like he had the perfect body from the outside, but he had malaria one off season. He got T-boned in a car wreck another time, so he was somewhat beat up. That car wreck, that's why he would always kind of moving his neck around. But,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he was spectacular.
Steve, if you don't mind, you mentioned the home run that he hits into right field. Frank Robinson's glove was about 47 inches long, wasn't it, too? So he really had to hit it hard in order to get over Frank's glove.
Yeah, but he hit the ball so hard to the opposite field. You know, when Harry Walker took over the Pirates from Murtaugh, he asked Roberto to give him more power because Roberto was a line drive gap hitter. And Clemente promptly hit 26 home runs that year.
Yeah.
I mean, it never surprised you what he did. And it was just, even watching him, the way he handled himself in the hotel or on an airplane or in an airport, just fascinating person to watch.
There was a different degree of confidence. You mentioned that when he was on deck and he had a knee and he had the bat kind of strapped around his legs, you know, just a certain, I got this, I can do this. This is a piece of cake for me. You know, it wasn't easy, but he made it look easy because he was so good at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, take a look at that team that I was pitching in front of. I looked over, there's a Hall of Famer at first, Stargell, Hall of Famer at second, Maz, Hall of Famer in right field. I almost had the idea, okay, hit the ball in that direction. I'm going to go get a sandwich, and when I come back, you'll be out.
Yeah.
But I mean, have that kind of backing and watching him with the, you know, he had that basket catch that would have looked probably awkward with anybody else doing it, but it was just smooth, just absolutely smooth. Now, he also had a little bit of a sense of humor because he was like every other position player. Every position player thinks they can pitch. Every pitcher thinks they can be a rock and roll singer. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, right.
But Roberto, every once in a while, would have a catch before batting practice. He'd be playing catch and trying to pitch. And he said, Blass, come over here. Look at, watch this curveball. And he would throw this piece of crap that he called his curveball. I said, Roberto, you know, stay with right field. I think it's going to work out all right for you. I really do. But I had that. I could kid with him. He trusted me. I amused him, and he would laugh along with me. And one quick story. Remember Mission Impossible, the TV show with Peter Graves, and he would duck into the phone booth to get his assignment. Well, Clemente would get on the trainer's table every night before the game and get worked on with his neck and everything. So I snuck under the trainer's table one night, and I said to him, Mr. Clemente, this is your neck. Your assignment today is to hit 3 doubles off Jack Billingham and throw 3 guys out at third base. And if you don't do that, I'll disavow any knowledge of this conversation. I'm playing Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I probably never saw that TV show, but he's up there laughing. I could feel him laughing on the trainer's table.
This tape will self-destruct in the next 8 seconds, right? Yeah.
The trainer's table will catch fire or something.
That's right.
We had that camaraderie, and we had that kind of clubhouse. It was a great, irreverent clubhouse, but that you can have that when you're good. You can have fun.
Absolutely.
I don't suggest that when you got a bad ball club, but no. We had guys that all produced and respected each other. It was a great clubhouse. Boy, does that look like? Do you think I've not got everything into that release right there? That's pretty funny.
You're airborne. You know, this is obviously
all 170 pounds. You can see how skinny I am.
Yeah.
Not as skinny as Bruce Keeson was.
Yeah, he was like a blade.
4.
Hey, what was the meeting like when you're getting ready to take on the Orioles and you got all these pitchers and everyone's winning 20 games and here's Jim Palmer here on the left of this, and you know what are you going to do against these guys? And I think even the media was going, you know, you got 1 in a million, so you're telling me you got a chance, but you know it's a really solid lineup. They are World Series challenged. Davey Johnson right here, pretty much in the middle. Well, Manny's in the middle, but Davey just to the right of him. But the pitching staff that they have compared to you guys, it was almost like David and Goliath, wasn't it? The way the media was matching it up.
Yeah, it was almost like the Yankees and Pirates in 1960. But there were headlines in some newspaper. The Orioles might not need 4; they might win it in 3.
Really? Wow.
We were so overmatched. 4 20-game winners. You got Hall of Famers. You got a Hall of Fame manager. But you got to understand that was 75, 71. We had some power for hitting. I mean, we had some go get it hitting, and our pitching wasn't that bad. We were decent. We were a bunch of 12 or 15-game winners, great closer, but everybody said we were terribly overmatched, and so they won the first 2. We won the next 3. You look at those 3 home games after we're down 2. We won those 3 games, and we gave up a total of 4 runs.
Yeah.
We gave up 3 runs in game 3. I gave up 1 in game 4. And Nelly Browse shut them out in game 5. We outpitched the 4 20-game winners. I beat Cuellar twice, and he pitched well. Outside of Robertson's home run in game 3, he pitched well. Pitched well in game 7. But being out there on the bottom of the 9th inning and with a 1 lead, go out there, and I know I can't block it out. I know 3 outs, we're going to win the World Series. Boog Powell was up, 1 swing of the bat, but I threw him nothing slop. He was 0 for 8 off me in 2 games because I never gave him anything but a curveball to hit, and he would hit it 500 feet, but it'd be 400 feet foul. He was a pull hitter. He bounced out to second, and now I got Frank Robinson, who hit a home run off me in game 3, the only run they got, and he's coming up, 1 swing of the bat. He can tie it.
Yep.
And first pitch, I threw a slider, and I let go of the ball, and it actually felt a flash came back, just like the slider I threw in game 3. And I let it go, and I looked up. I said, Lord, if you get me out of this mess, I'll be a good Catholic boy the rest of my life. And he popped it straight up, and I said, just kidding, just kidding. He popped it straight up in the air. And every time I saw him after that, he said, I want that slider back. And I said, you don't want it back any more than I wanted it back when I let go. But I got it. And then the ground ball up the middle to Jackie Hernandez. And then the release is incredible. Bob Robertson catches the ball, and all I could think, it's forever. It's forever. I'm thinking the World Series. We won it. It's forever. It's never going to go away. And I jumped on the right guy. He's a horse. He's a moose. I jumped up, and the release is incredible. We win the World Series, and I'm obsessed with finding out. I found out. Can you hold that 1 minute? Rusty Kennedy, a photographer for Associated Press, won a composition award for this photo. Sankey's got his arms up. I got my arms up. And the Godfather in the back with the sunglasses, probably the only guy that bet on the Pirates, he's got his arms perfectly centered in between Sankey's arms and my arms. Rusty Kennedy won an award for composition. Every time I saw him, they said, hey, thanks for posing that for me. And they didn't have video that time. He had a bunch of pictures going, but he caught that with the Godfather in the back. And Sankey and I are just jumping like
just a millisecond or anything different, and Manny's glove is in the way, right? But it's not. But yeah, you got that. And
well, I didn't think that was a problem. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But
you know what? I got that right hand that threw the last pitch of the World Series.
Yep. You're still ready to go. How about this one? This is another.
I'm on the way to Robertson now.
What were you doing? Were you testing yourself out to see if you had a vertical jump? What the heck, man?
The release came, and
I'm
thinking I can do anything. I can fly.
I can't believe a white man can jump that high.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I don't think I could reach that height right now. But got that image, and I think it's Ed Sudol with a hand up, the out call at first base.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that you knew that the first base umpire has a smile on his face. He's holding up a number 1, and maybe he's a Pittsburgh guy. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Well, what doing now? We're going home now. The season's finally going to be over.
Wow.
But and there's the image when I finally get to Bob, and I got I wind up with my legs around number 7. I've jumped that high. But and then there it is right there. Yeah, he signed that for me. and we go in. I get to walk in the clubhouse with Roberto Clemente.
Well, and the one on the left, is that Al coming in from center field? Was he in center at the end of the game?
That's Gene Klein's.
Gene Klein, please forgive me. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that umpire by your spikes there on the one on the left doesn't have his hand up in the air. He isn't going number one.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go to get into the dugout, I guess.
Goodness gracious.
Hey, Steve, refresh my memory. Growing up in LA and going to Dodger Stadium all the time, one of my biggest thrills, and I was there both nights, and I think you were pitching one of the games, when Willie Stargell hit the ball out of Dodger Stadium, one off Alan Foster, and I can't remember the other one, but you were pitching one of those games, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. He hit it out in the parking lot.
Yep, twice. He did it twice.
Yeah, I know. Over the bullpen, the visiting bullpen. Crazy the way he could hit the ball.
Nobody had ever done that. He's the first guy to ever hit the ball out of Dodger Stadium. He did it twice, and this is before steroids and all the baseballs weren't Titleist golf balls back then either.
Oh yeah, he unbelievable power, unbelievable. And I went through the minor leagues with Willie, and Willie was down in the Dominican Republic when Karen and I were there, and I came up through the time where they couldn't eat with us in certain restaurants, they couldn't go to certain hotels, and I came through the minor leagues, and boy, you talk about learning something about tolerance and all that, and how mean people can be and all that, but because Willie Stargell, I learned from Willie, and I learned how he handled it. I knew what was inside him too. But you talk about being a major leaguer. Willie was so great.
That didn't happen much in Pittsburgh, did it? That prejudice stuff.
To agree, it was still around.
Really?
When it came up in the early '60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh, came to embrace Willie Stargell, came to embrace the black guys on our team. There's Sandy and Willie and Scoop, Dave Cash and Roberto.
You were the Pirates were the first team to start all blacks. Remember?
Yep, September 1st, 1971.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there sitting on the bench for that. And Danny Murtaugh, the way he handled, the writers all rushed in and asked, "Do you know what you did? What the lineup you sent out there?" And he said, "I thought I said the 9 best Pirates I had a chance to win with tonight."
Yeah, no kidding.
Diffused the whole thing.
Well, people get racist and racial mixed up. From a racial perspective, to be the first one to do something like that, and to have the diversity that you had in your lineup there in the early '70s, and I mentioned earlier with the Spanish-speaking players, and just these are my 9 guys that I've got, and these are the 24 that I have in on my roster, and it's just a combination, and we're pretty good. So just back off, everybody.
Well, how would you like to pitch in front of that group?
No kidding. Yeah.
They can play. They're going to get you some runs. Bill Verdon said when he managed our team in '72, he said it was nice to get in the car every afternoon and go to the ballpark knowing I was going to get 5 or 6 runs.
Pretty much, yeah.
Absolutely.
You think he felt good? Think about if you're a pitcher driving to the ballpark, you're going to get 5 or 6 runs to work with.
Well, how about that? Does that change your motto? Like, look, I don't have to throw my best stuff every pitch. I can work. I can experiment. I can try to be a Greg Maddux type guy, and I'm going to throw this pitch 3 weeks before we play him again in the playoffs because I've got a good enough lineup to be able to get us there, and I'm going to get him out when we play him in the playoffs or in the World Series. I'm going to do things differently because I know that we're going to score 2, 3, 4, 5 runs. We're not going to have a problem doing that every night.
Yeah, you got some wiggle room. Yeah. So try different stuff. Yeah. So,
well, I hope that made you a better pitcher for obviously, the confidence of knowing that while Stargell is up and Al is on first, you got Roberto Clemente in the hole, or vice versa. It doesn't matter what the order is, and he's just waiting to get up to the plate, and we're going to score. And so then you get to go out with a little bit more confidence next time you go out on the mound.
Yeah, and also they can play in the field too. These are not guys that are just good bats and bad gloves. They know how to play the baseball game. with their native ability and the gut feel. I'm a big fan of the gut feel of how to play the game, not just the talent. You got to have the talent, but that first step as an outfielder, or that first step by a pitcher to go over to cover first base on a ground ball to first. Those things that you have to do without taking time to think. Because if you take time to think, you're going to be a step late many times. Yeah. That gut feel, that instinct of what to do without having to think about it. And those guys had that.
And the result of that, and Bob, we mentioned this just before we went on the show, the result is you get on the cover of Sports Illustrated. How about that?
How cool is that?
Now, I've never seen a release like this where both hands are behind your back before. Yeah. It was, what kind of pitch you throwing here, Steve?
Well, that could be anything. I tried to. I had the same motion, same screwed up motion with anything.
Yeah.
But they had to find the baseball at some point, and it became a little tricky.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, game face there. That's not going to make me a movie star.
Well, I hope that wasn't a police officer saying, "All right, I have both hands behind your back, sir. Please, you're coming down to the pokey with us."
No, not that time.
No, not at all. All right, you get to pitch another couple years, and then, unfortunately, a little bit early. You went over 100 games. It's time to hang them up. You get involved in broadcasting. When did you know that was going to be something that was going to fall into your lap the way that it did? And no one knew that it would be 30 years later that you would finally get out of the booth. But my goodness, what a great pickup for you. Your bride gets to have you go to the ballpark and get away again every day. But my gosh, what an interesting conglomeration of things that happened, and the stars coming together. Can you talk a little bit about that with us?
Yeah. I go way back. I'm a voracious reader. I started when I was a kid reading everything I can put my hands on. And so when I speak to kids now, I said, that's the basis of having a good vocabulary. You know, you learn all kind of words, how to use them. And I thought, and I played a little kind of a mental game when I wasn't pitching for 4 days in between starts. I would fool around with play-by-play, and I realized even playing around, I said, I don't want to do that. I want to. Nellie King, who worked with Bob Prince in Pittsburgh, I always said, Nellie, when I finish playing, I'm going to wind up working with you. And so it wound up doing that. And the Pirates in the late 70s had 3 broadcasters, Lane Fratteri, John Sanders, and Jim Rooker, former pitcher. And they wanted a 4th guy so they could have 2 guys on radio and 2 guys on TV at the same time. So I auditioned. And they auditioned other guys too, and then they kept bringing me back. And you want to do 2 games, well, how about doing 10 games? And so I wound up doing cable, and I loved it because I had the vocabulary where I could get in and tell my stories. And I don't know what I know enough about the strategy of a baseball game to fake it. Analysis. My strength was telling stories and relating to Pirate history and recall and all that. And my whole theory was I wanted to do as a broadcaster, create comfort while you're sitting watching or listening to the game. And that's all part of it with the stories. And so that's what, that was my strength. And so I loved doing it. I had so much fun. And the only reason I stopped was because I got sick of traveling. I didn't want to travel anymore, but I had so much fun. But I think
over 30 years. How many years, Bob?
34 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but before I did that, I've got to touch on the bad times too, when I couldn't pitch anymore and I didn't know what was happening. And it was a funny kind of thing because I won 2 World Series games. The next year, 72, I won 19 games, the most I ever won. And then in 1973, I was 3-3 early in the year, and then all of a sudden, it went away. And I don't know to this day why the control went away. I tried everything. I embarrassed myself for 2 years because I didn't want to quit because I knew what I was capable of and thought something might fall into place. But it was humiliating. It was embarrassing. When I pitched in Pittsburgh during those 2 years, and it was awful. Part of the worst part was people in Pittsburgh didn't boo me because I had done good things for so many years. So it got quiet when I was struggling so bad. And that was some of the toughest parts because when I was awful on the road, people loved it because I was bad against their team. But in Pittsburgh, it was tough. And finally, Joe Brown and Danny Murtaugh came back, and they were so great. They said, "Steve, we know what's going on with you, and we're going to stick with you as long as you want to keep trying to get it back. But you let us know when you've had enough." And the spring of 1979, I pitched a game against the White Sox. Danny Murtaugh got thrown out of that game. No manager gets thrown out of a game in spring training, but he did that to show his support to me. And I know that to be a fact. And after that game, I told Joe and Danny, I've had enough. I can't do any more of this myself, my family. And it was a very difficult 2 years. But looking back, you learn as much about when you're struggling. You learn as much or more about yourself than when you're successful and you're just cruising. And I learned that it's not who I was. It was what I did for a living. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in a rage and feeling sorry for myself. And also, to be quite honest, I had a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage. So I had to go find a job. And so I sold high school class rings for 8 years. I'm still doing pirate stuff on the side. So that's why I can still say 66th year that I'm involved with the Pittsburgh Pirates. But it was a rough time, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned that it wasn't all I was. I was more than a baseball player, and that was so important to me, so important to our family, because it's so tough on the kids when you're a pro athlete and the kids you have, their friends want them to get my autograph. I was pitching so well. Now I'm going so bad. Kids can be cruel without knowing they're being cruel. I say, "Hey, your dad's a bum now." Same kids that wanted my autograph are telling my kids that your dad's a bum. And they're not trying to be cruel, but it's just the way you are when you're young sometimes. And I wasn't going to put my kids through that anymore. It was really difficult for them. So it was time. And but I evolved, and luckily the Pirates took a shot at me with broadcasting, like they did when I was 18 years old as a young baseball player. And again, I'll never compromise loyalty to the Pittsburgh Pirates, the city of Pittsburgh, or the organization. It's as simple as that. It's been great.
Hey, Steve, I just want to say one thing. I've said this before. Gene Mauch always said, he said, the hardest thing in the world is to get to the big leagues for one day, Gene Mauch. And he said, even harder than that is staying there for 2 days. And Casey Stengel used to always say, it's a guy's name in the encyclopedia, which meant you could go in for the outfield for one pitch and come out and you're in the encyclopedia. Those last couple of years, people, when they think of Steve Blass, sure, they may know about that, but what they focus on is the great career you had and all those 2.12 ERAs and 18-6 and winning the World Series and all that. So when I think of you, that's just a side note. When you it's an interesting thing because I never saw it before, but I think of you as a great Pittsburgh Pirate. I just want you to know that. I don't think of that other stuff.
Well, thank you. One of the things I get to talk to the pitchers every once in a while in spring training, talk to the ball club in the clubhouse. And one of the things I've always tried to say is, you've all worked your tails off to get in this clubhouse in spring training. Some of you are minor league invitees, some of you are veterans, but you can never take it for granted. You can never be content with it. And I tell you guys that are trying to make the team, or have been here for a year, don't be content just to be in the big leagues. Don't rely, oh, I made it. Oh, you don't want to be 85 years old sitting on the back porch saying, yeah, I made it, but I wonder how good am I? Find out how good a major leaguer you can be, because you don't want to sit on that porch and, gee, I made it. I wonder how good I could have been. You might find out that you can be better than you thought you might have been. And I think that's the case with me. I didn't know how good I was going to be, but I was obsessed with finding out. So don't be content. You worked your tail to get here. Work your tail to stay here.
Great advice. And Steve, if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to follow up with a real quick note. A couple of months ago, we had Steve Sachs, Dodgers second baseman, world champion, and he couldn't throw the ball from second base to first.
Yeah, Mark Wohler, Steve Sachs, Mackie Sasser. And I used to have an 800 number. People would call their agents or friends or somebody or coaches. And what advice do you have? I said, I don't have any advice because
any advice. Yeah.
The only advice I would give you is don't quit because you did it. So you know, okay, something might fall back into place. Something might click. It didn't for me, but it might for you. So don't quit unless you're totally, absolutely convinced it's not going to be there anymore. Kind of a lighter note, if you will, to balance. Mackie Sasser came over to catch for the Pirates when I was broadcasting. And I said, hey, Case, hey, Mackie, Steve Blass, we have something in common. And he said, what? Well, you had trouble throwing the ball back to the pitcher. I had trouble throwing the ball to the catcher. So why don't you and I go get a big bag of baseballs and have a catch? Just in case we miss a few times, let's get a big bag of baseballs. We'll have a catch. So,
yeah, we'll need every one of them probably.
Use the whole bag.
Yeah.
We had a reunion one year, and I got a chance to throw the first pitch out to Sandy, our 40th reunion of our World Series. I took a bag of baseballs out to the mound. Nobody caught it, but I thought it was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, have fun. It's a game.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it. Well,
they don't say work baseball, play baseball.
Right.
Yeah, play ball and have a good time. Well, speaking of good times, there were tough times, but also some good ones with the Pirates in the 34 years that you were a part of that. The television, the radio, the way it works, the storytelling, that's the part. I mean, there's certain magic, if you will, that I'm sure Bob remembers, and I do as a kid, listening to Vin Scully tell a story about Sandy Koufax and Roy Campanella back in 1961 or something like that. And Davey Lopes was at the plate, and 2-2, he fouls it away. And I go, I don't care what Lopes is doing. Tell me the story about Sandy Koufax and finish what Roy Campanella did. Did you ever have any of those times where you knew your story was going to be longer than the inning and you had to abbreviate it and it was just turned into a cluster?
Well, yeah. So many times I got to be good friends with the guys down in production to a truck. And so I got the headset on so they can talk to me all the time.
Sure.
And my nickname became, well, we have a moment. Well, we have a moment, and sometimes those moments will go on too long. And they'd get in my ear and say, Steve, we got a baseball game going on. Can you interrupt your story a little bit?
Yeah, can you wrap that up and allow us to actually enjoy the ball game that we're here to do in the first place?
Yeah, Bob will appreciate this. And I kind of made it up because I talk about managers. Casey Stengel was great with the Yankees, now good with the Mets, and Mets hired him out of retirement to manage the Mets on that first year when they had such an awful team record. And I said, not only was it an awful team record, but they might have had one of the, well, for lack of a better term, one of the players that struggled most. And we used to wonder how he got to the big leagues. Marvelous Marv Thornberry. And he was on that team. And they looked up one night and Marv was on first base. Nobody knows how he got there. Hadn't been there all year. So, he's on first. The next Met hits a gap shot. Marv comes all the way around to score. The other team gets the ball. They go over to third base, and they call Marv out for missing third base. Casey storms out of the dugout, the famous manager, to argue with the umpire. And the umpire says, stay right there, Casey. He also missed second. So you get into, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but you can get into the stories. And people, you're going to have some lapses where you can get the story, and you're going to have some where you have to compress the story sometimes, and you don't want to get, Bob Prince said, and don't get in the way of the ball game. Don't get in the way of the ball game.
Yeah.
That's probably the first commandment of broadcasting. So I tried my best, but I lingered too long several times.
What year did you retire, Bob? Or Steve?
Pardon me?
What year did you retire, Steve?
I retired from broadcasting 2019.
Wow.
But and then the Pirates are nice enough to give me this ambassadorial role where I go out and represent the team. I make talks. I do charity stuff.
Wonderful.
I love doing that because it keeps my head in too. Happy guy.
Absolutely.
Well, the view on the left there, of course, getting to see a ballpark every day, that's not a bad gig, is it?
And looking, we've been ranked as maybe the best ballpark in America. And looking at that background, especially at night when you get the clarity and the contrast, almost looks across the river, across the ball field, across the river to the few skyscrapers that we have, almost like the background of a movie set in New York, because you get the wonderful contrast. It's a beautiful ballpark.
And is it true? There's just off to the left field side, there's a couple of glass window, a hotel, or some high rise, and the Dodgers were there last year, and the production crew took more pictures of the sunset and just the way that the sun was reflecting off the way. I can imagine you seen many a sunset that are just golden moments in terms of, wow, this is such a picturesque view that I have right now, right?
Absolutely, because
the way that park in particular allows for that to happen that others don't.
Yeah, you either have that setting or you don't, and so the wind sets in back of us along the Ohio River, and there's the sun will give it a copper look off the buildings, and it's just absolutely spectacular. And I'm not sure if the hitters like it very much because it might improve their vision of a pitch coming in. There's a pitch coming in, by the way. That's going to be a four-seamer, and then I'm going to laugh because the guy hit it so far, and then I'm going to remember it.
Well, all I know is that your left arm isn't way up in the air like you're reaching to the Rose Queen. You're not waving with your gloves, so it's an unusual stance there. But you know what? You've tamed in the last couple of years. It's okay.
Yep. Well, yeah, it feels good to put that old uniform back on every once in a while.
And what's impressed the hell out of me is watching how high you could jump, Steve. I'm serious. I couldn't believe that.
I know. I can't believe I did that either. But I did it once. They can't take it away. And just an old ball gamer.
Let me find it one more time. Yes, this is it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, how about that one right there? Is that it, Bob?
I love it. It looks even higher this time.
Yeah. And that was a spring training game, wasn't it? 1970, in Port St. Lucie? Heck no, not at all. Yeah, hey, do us a favor. I know that you're really involved in the community and have a lot of things that are really heavy on your heart in terms of what you want to do. And even if it's raising just one additional dollar, your alumni association does a great job of trying to make an impression. Can you talk a little bit about your involvement with the Pirate Alumni Association and some things that are important to you and that you're involved with, like the golf tournament and other things?
Yeah, Bob Prince told me when I came to the big leagues, he said, if you're going to be part of a community, be a part of it. So I've tried to be a good member of the alumni. Also, personal stuff that I care about. My nephew had a double lung transplant because of cystic fibrosis, and I did a roast to raise money for a radio station in Pittsburgh, WDVE. They have a great morning show, and they said they'll give me X amount of dollars, and they'll give it to cystic fibrosis. So we had a big roast, and my son Chris, who you met earlier, was one of the roasters, and he did a really nice job on me. He really did. But the roastee gets the microphones last. And I said, Christopher, if you ever do that again, I'm going to tell everybody in this room who your real father is.
Uh-oh.
So we had a lot of fun. But I've done roasts. I did a roast with Sean Casey. We had a lot of fun with. I'm involved. I donate personally to the food bank in Pittsburgh, and also other ones that I do personally. But the alumni golf tournament, we've had it for over 30 years, and we've raised a ton of money. And what happens, every dollar we spend goes to somebody's pet charity of all of us. So we all have a pet charity, and we put a list on, and all of it stays local. For mine is cystic fibrosis. There's another one I'm involved with, family hospice, and Kent Jacoby is, we have Teak is involved with myasthenia gravis, and the whole list goes down. And our money is split equally between the ones we're personally involved with. So that's very important to us, and we've had it for a lot of years, and very, very proud of it. We actually sell out every year, and it's one of those neat things.
Food bank, cystic fibrosis, family hospice. There's so many different ways that you give back. Joe Belladue, am I saying that correctly? Joe's the guy that you want to get in touch with. For those that are in Pittsburgh on July 20th in the South Hills Country Club, just outside of where the stadium is, 412-398-8661. Joe Belladue, 412-398-8661 at the South Hills Country Club. You can sign up. You can buy a single or a foursome. You get a chance to play with the former player. Is that right, Steve? Is there a chance that if Bob and I go that we might get to play with you, or are you the guy that wants to play with the big wiggers? You want the high money guys?
Well, no, not necessarily. I do have a group I play with. I've got a personal friend that buys a foursome every year that I played with.
There you go.
But you can also make personal donations. There's some people that have helped us not being able to play for one reason or the other. So it's been very successful. It kind of, and I get to MC it after, tell some stories, and so it's been a lot of fun. We used to have it at Churchill Country Club over in the east side of Pittsburgh, and then we brought it over to South Hills Country Club. Dave Justy and I were members there for a long time, and we were able to get it moved over to South Hills. So it's been a really feather in our cap as an alumni group.
Yeah, and the way that you give back to the community and want others to do the very same thing, and if you can, every little bit counts, and it means something, and it goes to the right places. Those are absolute musts in the marks that you need to check off to make sure you do the right thing when you want to give. So again, the South Hills Country Club will be hosting on July 20th the Alumni Golf Association, the tournament that you have. And Steve, you will be a part of that along with so many other great Pirate names from the past. Anything else that we can talk about? We've discussed.
I got a question. Steve, I have a question for you. My friend Tony Kuhlke said he saw you in spring training with the Pirates this year.
Yeah,
and Chris.
I think there's a connection with Chris's wife that knows.
Yeah, but what I wanted to ask you, what is your impression, being an ex-big league pitcher, of this Skeens guy? Is he as great as they say? What do you think about that kid?
How much time do you have? I think he's generational. Most pitchers that are power guys like that have grown up just blowing the ball by people, just overpowering people. But Paul Skeens can do that, but he also has a little bag of 4 other pitchers that are quality pitches that he can use. And I've not seen anything like him. And why he's got his feet on the ground. He gets it about the fans. He gets it very involved with the military. He's really seems to be a very mature young man. And people ask me all the time, does he remind you of anybody when you played? The only name that comes up is Nolan Ryan.
Wow.
Because you go back to Nolan, and I've got a personal story about him because I pitched to him against him, and he was a rookie with the Mets, one of his early starts. I don't know if it's his first one or not, but I've been around for a couple of years. So now I'm at Shea Stadium. He's pitching, and there's 40,000 people watching him every time he pitches. And I'm in the on-deck circle, and I'm watching him warm up, and I said, if he hits me, I could die tonight. So I go up, Jerry Grody's a catcher, so I'm digging in, and I'm telling Jerry Grody back. I said, Jerry, no problem, 3 pitches and I'm out of here. But look at him out there. There's stuff coming out of his nose. His eyes are crossed. He's pawing at the dirty, 19 years old. He throws 200 miles an hour and doesn't know where it's going. So if he hits me, Jerry, and I live, I'm going to hit you. and he called time on one and talked to him. And all it took was 3 pitches. I've never seen anything like that. So
Yeah.
Skeens puts me in mind of him, but I can't think of anybody else.
Wow, what a compliment.
Ron Luciano wrote a book, and he and Earl Weaver had a lot of interesting conversations over the year. And in that book, he was behind the plate when Nolan was on the mound. And there's a guy at the plate. It doesn't matter who it is. And ball comes in. He goes, ball. And his catcher right in front of him says to Ron, he goes, ball. And Ron goes, yeah, it sounded high. That's all he said for that one. He just said that kid has something. Now, he's not the only one. Imagine facing him and J.R. Richard in back-to-back nights, in Houston when he was with the Astros in the middle of his career. Goodness gracious. But Skeens he has all the tools. He just stay healthy, my friend. Now, I will ask you a follow-up question. Is Pittsburgh growing to the point, because you would go to games and they'd be empty. In the early 90s, they made the playoffs 2, 3, 4 years in a row, and the upper deck was empty. No one was there. They wouldn't even show the footage over on the film. The Braves were playing against him a couple times. I was here in Atlanta. From a business perspective, can you re-sign him?
Well, to be determined. That's above my pay grade, so I don't know. But they're trying to build around him now. They picked up O'Hearn and Lau.
He's great. I heard he did great, O'Hearn, right?
Yeah. Well, so if they build around him, that scenario could change. Of course, everybody remembers Garrett Cole left and went to the Yankees. So I'm not sure. Just to go back to that three-year string, 2013, 14, 15. We had a crowd. It was a blackout night against the was it Johnny Cueto? Cueto was pitching for I can't.
San Francisco?
Yeah, I think the Giants, and he dropped a ball on the mound. First of all, that game, it was packed. It was packed, and I was there doing it, and everybody wore black. And I have not seen as much energy in any sporting event that I've seen in person. It was wild that particular night. And he dropped the ball on the mound. The next pitch, Russell Martin hit a home run, and everybody in that crowd thanks that, because they were there for that, and they caused him to drop the ball with their noise and all this.
Wow.
I pitched 10 years in the big leagues. I probably dropped the ball around the mound 20 times. Nobody ever hit a home run the next pitch.
No.
But they wanted to feel that way. They could, because Pittsburgh people turned out for that night, and it was incredible. It got national attention, the blackout night in Pittsburgh in 2015.
Yeah.
So it's a good baseball town. You got to give them a product. It's like every other town. I know you got to win to fill the ballpark, and so I got my fingers crossed because I can't quit on him. So
that's right.
See how it plays out with him.
Well, the monetary business of the game is going to change here with this proposed lockout and, a cap, or who knows what's going to happen. But we wish you the best for being a part of the organization. I want to say thank you on behalf of, I don't have the authority to do it, but every fan, every person that just loves the game of baseball. You help make it better, Steve, and I appreciate you. You still do it, and it's an important part of your life, and we want to thank you for all of that. And Bob, before I sign off, I know you got some final words.
I just want to say, Steve, what an honor and a pleasure it is to see you, and especially looking so sharp. I'll tell you one thing, you're never going to have to worry about dementia. You're as sharp as a tack. As sharp as a tack. Your memory amazes me. And my two favorite things is seeing the picture of you jumping and seeing you on the cover of that Sports Illustrated. Boy, did that bring back memories, that Sports Illustrated cover.
Well,
what a great time to be with you and hear all these great stories. And I'm glad to see you've been married 62 years. And I didn't have that kind of luck, but God bless you. And you have two great kids. So you just had a wonderful life, and you're having a wonderful life.
It is. I'm going to be 84 in a couple of weeks, but I had a wonderful thing happen this morning. I went into a room and I absolutely remembered why I went in there. It's a great start to the day for me.
Yes, sir. I love it.
Look at that! Look at that game face.
I love that. I love that cover. I love that cover. That looks.
Yeah, let me just tell you guys that you asked all the right questions. I certainly enjoyed the journey this afternoon. It was a joy being with you. I've been looking forward to it, and exceeded my expectations.
It's been great
being with you.
And thank Chris for help. I want to thank Chris for helping getting you hooked in here too.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine on the wall. Yeah.
You think? Yeah, that's a good idea. And we want to thank Chris too. Obviously, if you're just joining us, Chris Blass, Steve's son, is the one that knows how a computer works and can make it work and get the camera and the mic to function and just click a little button and get you two guys on the show. Because I don't know if you know this, Steve, but Bob needs help too, right? Absolutely. And I have to cue him in every now and then because it's just too complicated to push a button, right?
5-year-olds know more than us.
Yeah, well, I touched my wife's computer about 6 years ago, and the garage door went up, so I haven't been near it since.
I thought you would get to see your favorite movie, you know, if you touch the right stuff. It's amazing. Well, Steve, thank you very much. You're a world champion, not only in baseball, but for what you're able to do after baseball and make the game grow in a way that it's more productive and it values its players and the fans like it just as much, where you still get autographs and people will want to come up and shake your hand for what you were able to do during that 71 season. Gosh, just so many people in Pittsburgh are grateful to you for being a part of that world championship with all of the great players that you had around you, the Clementes, the Stargels, the Sanguians, the Cashes, the Stennetts, the Olivers. You got just amazing group of guys. And we want to thank you for being with us. And thank you for watching, everybody. This has been 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LeBel along with Bob Case. This has been the Sports Page along with Bob Case. And our guest today has been Steve Blass, world champion from the 1971 Pittsburgh Pirates. We want to thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, please like or subscribe and tell a friend. We'd appreciate you doing that. In the meanwhile, we want to say thank you very much for